Hey guys, welcome back to the Made Men podcast. This is David Sloan, your host, and Adam Carroll, our co-host. And today we have a very special guest, Daniel Cremin. Hi Daniel, how are we?
Doing? Not too bad. Can't complain.
Good. Do you want to give a little bit of an introduction to yourself?
Yeah, so I'm a psychological performer, which basically means that it started off as a magician, but then I use psychology and social science to mess with people's heads, is the broadest way of putting it.
Sounds like a good way of putting it.
Yeah.
And what do you do now? What are you studying?
Yes, I'm doing social science in UCC, which ties in fairly nicely with that whole side of things as well. Yet to actually get into college though, so it's just been all from my bedroom.
Yeah,
which is great fun.
that's good. So, how are you finding it as a course? What do you think of it?
To be honest, it's like, because my first one was applied psychology, was my first option, and then social science was my second. But I actually much prefer it to the applied psychology now, from what I've heard of it, because kind of I have friends that are doing applied psychology as well, and they're saying that all the interesting bits are the modules that I'm doing in my course as well anyway, and the only addition that they're doing a lot of the time is like maths and statistics and all that stuff. So I'm delighted not to have that research aspect of it included.
Yeah,
But I would highly recommend the course so far anyway, unless
that's
that
good.
changes.
Yeah, we're yet to find out. Yeah, like I'm fascinated by psychology, and I think you know that I'm fascinated by psychology. And I think, to be fair, Adam, you've a good interest in psychology as well, and how people
Absolutely.
work.
Yeah, it's in my course now as well. So we have like sports psychology. It was my favorite, probably module last semester. Absolutely loved it. So it's good that we have Daniel on to pick his brain, I suppose. Be good to hear
Yeah.
things.
Yeah, and my course that I'm looking to do next year is computing and psychology. So I'm going the nerdy route of psychology, looking at how people's brains work with computers and design and all of that stuff. So I'll be touching base on the old psychology and brains and stuff too, which I am a little bit worried considering that I didn't do biology, and like I'm gonna need to know, probably detailed stuff in the psychology side of things. So we'll see how that goes though.
Yeah, you'll probably be okay. I know, like that course. Yeah, like the good thing about that course is, just like last week or something, I think it got accredited for the Irish Psychological Association of Ireland or whatever. So it's you proper, which is good. But I think, like with my course, anything that's kind of psychological, it does link back to certain biological elements. But I think a lot of that would be if you're doing something more like developmental psychology, because a lot of that involves genetics and hereditary and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But when it comes to the computing side of things, yours is probably more kind of, it would be kind of like software based, and how, if you look at like an iPhone, you know how to use an iPhone without having to be taught, because it's just so user friendly. So I think a lot of that course is the kind of psychology behind making technology user friendly and stuff. So there shouldn't be too much biology involved in that.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Well, that's exactly what I like anyway. The user experience, and that's why I went for it. Or well, yeah, it's down on my CEO now, or CAO. Yeah. So today we have a little bit of two topics of discussions really. One is lockdowns and how we find them, if they're worth it. What's the whole, the big debate around them. And then I'm sure we'll touch on the education system again later on, and the leaving cert in particular, and the psychological side effects of, or impacts of, such a exam and situation. But yeah, first of all, Daniel, what do you think about coronavirus, the lockdowns, how we're handling it as a country?
And how you're finding it?
Yeah, like I think from a actual spreading the virus point of view, I think lockdowns, like, people say that they don't work, but they clearly do, because we were at 7,000 plus cases at Christmas, and now we're down to about 1,000. So it's like, I think they were needed. You can have a whole other story about, whether they shouldn't be needed, for the fact that we shouldn't be in the position at all. But regardless of that, we are. We were in the position, and we had to do it. But I think it affects everyone differently, because like humans are ridiculously social creatures. even if you look at like kind of like, you know, mountaintops where you have a bunch of hermits living that just come in complete isolation, it's groups of hermits living together, which I think is quite funny. You know, it's like you still, people just don't like the whole isolation side of things. And I think like one thing that's really interesting, I think it was a study done in like 2017 by the University of Texas and Rice University, which is another university in Texas. They did a thing where they got, I think it was something like 312 just participants to take a survey that said it was a loneliness scale test. So they filled out that form and then they gave them nasal drops with like the common flu virus. So they gave them that, and then they quarantined them inside in a hotel for like 5 days. And then afterwards asked them to self-report their symptoms and how bad they felt. And the people who were higher on the loneliness scale had worse symptoms than those who didn't, which I think is quite an interesting thing to think about now when you're isolating people because of a virus, that can then affect with the virus as well. But I think it's not just a kind of a thing to claim and say, see, we can't have a lockdown because of that, because if you didn't have a lockdown, you'd have way more cases. So I think like, although it's not the best for everyone, I think sometimes they are necessary, unfortunately.
Yeah, I agree.
What do you think, Adam?
Like just to go along with what Daniel's saying there, I think with lockdowns, it's a complicated one, as he's saying. People are naturally social butterflies, I suppose. It's very hard to kind of take people's feelings into consideration when it is like such a serious matter. You know, a lot of people are dying. You know, there's still 50-60 deaths a day, is it about that, around that, guys?
Yeah.
And I think it is taking a huge toll on people's mental health. But like, I think it is necessary to have them, and like there's one thing doing it, but you gotta, like, I think they have to follow through it with all procedures, like the way, I'm pretty sure we mentioned about it before, Dave, but New Zealand, the way they just closed down the ports, they closed down the borders. Like we like, wasn't it for a whole year there at one stage we had like when we went into our lockdown, there were still people able to come over without getting tested and without that's where I find we fucked up big time. You know, I feel that was the biggest for me, that was the biggest, like, what was the whole point in that then? You know what I mean? If we're coming on to our third lockdown, you'd have thought by the second one we would literally have this, you know, knocked out the park and completely cleared. But you know, there has been huge mistakes made along the way, I think. But,
I agree to a certain extent. Like, I think there's two ways of doing it. I think there's the Swedish way of doing it, which is no lockdowns, leave everything happen, and pump money into the healthcare system to make sure that they're able to handle the amount of volume of cases and treat patients at a better rate, so that, you know, the deaths won't be as crazy. Yet there still will be a lot of deaths, which is inevitable. But I think if you were to look at their statistics and their graphs, they seemed to kind of level out. Like, they had, without a lockdown, of course, they peaked up and then they went back down, and they kind of leveled out for a while, and they didn't have this up down movement as other countries are seeing, like us. But then there's the other side of it, which is New Zealand, which I think looks fantastic. But I think you can only do that if you did it at the beginning. You can't just decide to do New Zealand after 2 lockdowns, and that didn't work. And I think we are now realizing probably that we should have done New Zealand's kind of way, or at least thought about it more. I think people were scared at the very beginning, back last April, to just be like, or last March, sorry, to just be like, oh, we're going to lock down the entire country and nothing's going, like, that's a big jump. And New Zealand made that jump before everyone else, and now they're looking like, oh, we knew everything, but we still don't know the implications of New Zealand's kind of complete cut it all out through, like, economically, but also socially through the lockdowns, like how did people handle it, how did all of that happen? I think there's a lot that we don't know yet. um, and then yeah, as I said, there's Sweden's kind of side of things where they were quite liberal with it, and kind of just chilled out. No one didn't, no masks, no lockdowns. um, and I don't know, theirs looks like, it sounds weird to say, but like they took the more side of, we want the economy keep going and we want people's like mental health to be good, and they valued that more than, or if it appears that they valued that more than the actual like health of patients with COVID. um, but yeah.
Yeah, I think the only thing about like kind of trying to compare like the current Irish situation to Sweden or New Zealand is the fact that like yes, New Zealand is an island and we're an island, but we have a border with another country on our island.
Yeah.
So it makes it a lot harder for us to go into a full lockdown. And in Sweden, they have a very socialist society with a universal healthcare system.
Yeah.
So they can afford to pump more money into it, as opposed to our public-private, which at the start of it, we did kind of get rid of that
Go
drastically
socialist,
and had a
didn't, yeah.
single tier system. But you can't do that for everything. Well, like, not that you can't, but we couldn't have it for everything so quickly. So I think it is very hard to try and compare Ireland with New Zealand and Sweden for those kind of situations. But I think definitely if we had more of a strict controls on our borders and stuff, is definitely something that should have been brought in way earlier.
Yeah. That's probably the key part there.
Yeah, and by borders I don't mean between north and south. I just mean actually like ports and airports.
Yeah, coming into the country.
Yeah.
Because I think that's what a lot of people forget that too. With like when they complain about the borders, they think that that's just people on a plane, and they forget that, you know, there's a lot more stuff coming through Ireland, and we're like one of the biggest exporting countries in probably the world for our size, and importing as well, because we're an island and we, you know, we're going to need a lot of stuff. So like things
that's
are
another
going to
difference. Like New Zealand can make more stuff within their own country than we can.
Yeah, like I would like to see though, like the amount of money that we're spending in lockdowns, like to keep us basically economically afloat, and keep like people's, you know, the COVID payment, and to actually enforce lockdowns and everything that goes along with lockdowns. Like I'd love to see if you just pumped that money directly into the healthcare system without much of a lockdown. Like obviously there's restrictions. I don't agree with this like act. Like there's nothing there. Like I think if you're not wearing, like you should wear a mask obviously all the time. I think there should be like limits to public transport numbers, and kind of gatherings and places. Like I think that's all fine. Like probably the level kind of 3 or level, is it level 3 around there, level 3, level 4? Like I think if you maintained that with pumping money into the healthcare system, then I think it would be brilliant. But that's like a perfect world, and I don't think that you'll get
scenario.
I don't think you'll get the perfect world.
Like I think one of the big issues with, like, I'm sure it's happened in other countries as well, but it's really clear here, is the Irish people think like if there isn't a restriction saying you can't do it, you should go and do it, you know. And it's like, if we don't have a lockdown, just because the pubs are open doesn't mean you need to go to a pub every single night, or just because you're able to go to a restaurant doesn't mean you have to go out to a restaurant. And I think that's our big issue, is like, just because the government isn't saying you can't do something doesn't mean it's not safe to do it. And I think that's one of our big issues, and that's what brings us back into these lockdowns, is the government don't have an adequate exit strategy from a lockdown.
Yeah, I think sorry, Adam, go on.
No, I was just going to say, and Daniel, what do you think is what do you think is going to happen in the next couple of months? How are we going to, you know, break, you know, reduce the size of deaths, reduce the sizes of the amount of cases? Like how do you think, in your own opinion, or when do you think, you know, things will start, you know, kind of coming like the light at the end of the tunnel, kind of a scenario where things will start to change? Or do you think it will change in a positive direction soon, or what's your opinion on it?
To be honest, like I think at the moment we're coming out of the lockdown on the 5th of March, which isn't going to happen because
5th
they're
of
not
March.
going to come out of a lockdown on the 5th of March and have
Cold turkey, like.
have Paddy's Day 2 weeks later.
Yeah.
We're going to be in a lockdown for Paddy's Day.
Yeah.
And like that's so it's like what I can see is I can see it going to the end of March and then maybe going to a level 4 in April, but I can't see us coming out of any lockdown into any type of level 1 or 2 until we definitely have all the vulnerable vaccinated. You know, I think we'll slowly come out of the lockdowns as we vaccinate our country, which by the sounds of it now, thanks to AstraZeneca and stuff and all this going on, could be
It's looking like a
closer
mess.
to September. Yeah. They're still saying that any adult that wants a vaccine will have been offered one by September, which
Doesn't
is
look.
because I've looked at it. It's hopeful, but it is
Quite
still
optimistic.
doable.
How is it?
Mm.
It's not very optimistic. It's hopeful, but it's not extremely unlikely as long as
Yeah.
there isn't some major spanner thrown in the works. You know, like we are not doing ridiculous amount of vaccinations at the moment, but that's just because we don't have enough of the vaccine yet. As we get more vaccine, we will be administering that more and more on a daily basis and stuff. So I think as long as nothing crazy happens with us getting the vaccine, like what is starting to happen at the moment, and the European Union putting a hard border on the island of Ireland for like 5 hours and then realizing it was a bad idea,
So,
hopefully we'll get out of it.
do you think so? It'll kind of bounce from kind of level to level. Like, do you feel it'll drop from level 5 to 3 to 4 to? Do you think it'll like
No.
keep changing like that?
I think
No.
it'll slowly come out of the lockdown, but like really slowly. I don't think we'll go into another lockdown. I think we'll probably be staying in this one until we can get out of it. Unless, but
Yeah,
then like that's what I think should happen. But that isn't what
Do
the
you
government
think?
at the moment would have you believe. So
Yeah, like I think one a good thing that you just said there is what they want you to believe. I don't think they're gonna tell anything straight up yet. Anyway, I think they'll just
yeah,
kind of keep you hoping, and which I don't agree with. Like they're doing it with the leaving cert and all of that. And we can touch on that later with just dragging it on. But like I think they should be like one. I think they should all be on the same page. I think we've seen a lot with the government that they're one person will say one thing and then another person might say something slightly different or slightly twisted, and that gives a different message slightly to people, which isn't good. Obviously you want everybody getting the one message that's the same across the board,
yeah.
but like
I think that is one of the weird things about Ireland that you don't see in many other countries is so many members of government
mm,
have different says and stuff. You know, like it should really be like two primary people, which should be Taoiseach and the Taoiseach, should be giving out any new information stuff. Like if you look at like the states, it's the president, Downing Street, it's the PM. You know,
yeah
it's like, but apparently, kind of a lot of ministers think that they're also the head of everything,
yeah
and will come out and say
there's
these
an
things.
ego
You know,
thing there.
and I'm all for supporting a government as much as you can, especially in a position like this. But it's hard sometimes.
No, yeah, I agree. Like when I'm looking, like I keep up with the Canadian kind of news on it
Yeah.
with the whole lockdown, how they're handling it. Um, and I saw that I think it was the start of this month, around probably the first week of this month, they had Ontario as a province, which has now Toronto and has Ottawa and has Kingston and like pretty big towns and cities in between, way bigger than our population. I'm sure it's about 15 million, 10 to 15 million, something like that. They had less cases than us in a day, and that's including Toronto, like a global massive city, and Ottawa, which is the capital, and then us as a country of only 4.5, nearly 5 million people. We had more cases, and I'm just like, how does that happen?
We're a smaller country as well, though. We're less spread out.
Yeah, but they've got
Yeah.
pockets that are very dense, very dense. Like we've got
Mm.
a lot of rural areas where, not much is happening. They've got like Toronto, they've got Ottawa, they've got a way bigger,
Our
more
rural areas don't have a lot of people living in them, though, either.
true. We are more what's the word, saturated in
Yeah.
Dublin, Cork. Yeah, I'm just finding it fascinating how
Yeah.
different people, like how different countries are handling it, and how like
Different
what,
strategies. Yeah.
yeah, like the thought that the reason why I brought that up was with you on about the different levels of government that are all having a word and
Yeah.
all saying, like they have in Canada, they've the prime minister, so the top dog, Trudeau. He's a legend. I love Trudeau. And then they have the, what do they call him again? Oh, I'm gonna forget this now. They've like basically the heads of each province. I can't remember.
Mm.
Premier. That's what it's called. A premier. It's like a French word. And they have then of each province, and the province kind of handles itself, but then the president or the prime minister will kind of have an overlook of everything and kind of enforce
Yeah.
the really, really tough ones. But like Ontario will go into a lockdown, a really strict one, and another province mightn't.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it could be interesting for us to see how that would happen. Like it's not fair for Donegal if they, let's say they have get like 10 cases, to be in a level 5 when Dublin then are pumping out 1,000, 5,000 cases a day or whatever. Like I don't know, it could
Yeah.
be something to look at.
But I think even because I know it's essentially having your own local government in different pockets, which we have to some extent by like Cork County Councils and stuff like that. But I know that they were planning on doing a referendum for Limerick anyway to give the mayor of Limerick and his own kind of local council more say in how the police are run and how housing is run and stuff. So I think that would move into more of a kind of a Canadian and American model of each county getting to have more say over it, which I think is a good idea, even from the
I do
point of
too.
view of giving the government more time to deal with the more national issues, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. Like exactly, like I think it takes a lot off the plates of the government that need to deal with the bigger problems. And like it's sorry, go on, Alan.
No, I was just gonna say there. How do you think the people of Ireland are finding the lockdown? Like, in one sense, I believe like this is completely kind of another topic here, but I was just kind of thinking there while you were saying that is, see, I it's kind of led me to be like people do hate the lockdown and they like it's the worst thing ever. It's really draining on a lot of people. Well, I see a lot of kind of good to come out of lockdown as well. Did you notice? Like I see like so like more people kind of becoming active and everything from it. Did you like even myself? Like I'm starting to do things that I wouldn't do. Like if there was no lockdown, I wouldn't have done it. Like this podcast. Like set doing other things like like trading and stuff online and stuff. And I think there is a lot of good to come out of it, whilst also having the huge negatives side of things. Would you agree?
Yeah, no, I think the thing is like everyone is individual and everyone is different. And one person might prefer a lockdown to having to go out and socialize with people and meet up with people. And then other people might need that social interaction and need to be with people. But I think the one thing is just because you're in a lockdown doesn't mean you should isolate yourself completely. Even if that's, talking on Zoom with someone or going for a walk, staying 2 meters apart with someone. It's like, I know the stats from the States was like since the 80s, loneliness among adults doubled. So it's like about 40% of Americans, this is before COVID, would have said that they were lonely. And if you just think about that, which the US is quite a large sample, so it's kind of, you can say it about any country that it would be roughly similar. So it's large enough to
Yeah.
make a statement like that over. And then you add a lockdown on top of that, can have negative effects on people's mental health. But I think with the mental health issues, you need to, if you're going to go into a lockdown, you need to have the support there for them, which, to be fair, our government do have a lot of helplines and stuff for that. But the only thing is, actual services are still drastically underfunded in our
Yeah.
country at the moment.
Yeah, like I think like it's interesting what you said there with the sample with the States, because like I think when you look at Ireland has one of the highest suicide rates for people in general, but especially young men, like in Europe,
Yeah.
in the world really. And I'd love to see like specifically, how does that affect us as a country, for a country that
Yeah.
naturally, statistically, has a way worse depression and suicide rate than a lot of countries across the world.
Mm. I think what's also interesting is when people say that, you know, they say that especially amongst men and stuff. What I think is interesting though is the fact that the rates for suicide are higher amongst men, but the rates for attempted suicide are
It's
higher
higher
amongst
amongst
women.
women. Yeah.
It's just men use more brutal force. So if
Yeah.
you want to use kind of a crude term, they're more successful at it than women
Yeah.
are when it comes to it. So I think the thing is that it's like, it's a national thing, not just a gender separation, that men are more prone to depression, which they may or not be. I actually don't know enough on that to make a statement like that, but it definitely, like, it's higher for women if men are the ones that are successful with committing suicide. I mean, there's still a lot of women that are unsuccessful but are depressed, you know.
Yeah, 100%. I think the reason why that could be is with men, they don't, you know, the stereotype of we don't talk, we bottle it up, we don't really want to like push it onto anyone else, and I think that then, like, women are a lot more, they'd be more inclined to kind of talk to their friends or talk to whoever, rather than men, and
Yeah,
obviously that's a bit of a generalization, but I think that would feed into why men would be more, like, have a worse, as you said, success, like they're more successful when doing it because they don't talk to anyone, and one day it's just you'd never know when it happens. There's no, like, I think if you looked at a woman's case, you would see kind of signs a lot, as it goes along, um, and they might be more open to talk about it a little bit more, or kind of give those indications that, like, oh, they're not okay. But with a man, like, it could be completely fine on the outside, and then all of a sudden one day it's just, yeah,
yeah,
it's interesting.
Yeah, it's I wonder if you know this is going to have a huge impact on the you know the depression rates in Ireland. Has it? Is there any like kind of studies out there at the moment that this has taken an even bigger toll on people? Is there anything out there yet about that? Would you know?
I haven't seen any studies done
It'd
on
be
it
interesting to
yet,
see though,
but
definitely.
like, I don't see how it wouldn't make it
Yeah,
worse. Like, if
yeah,
if you're going to be honest, like,
yeah.
yeah. Like, I know, because I was looking into the stats, like, kind of around the whole leaving cert last year
mm,
for my leaving cert, and it was like, after the lockdown started, there was a 60% increase in phone calls to Childline. So, which is both physical
that
abuse and
that's
mental abuse.
that's a
But
big
that's a
increase.
huge increase for such a short space of time as well. This was only like into the lockdown, was it March, and this was April kind of thing, you know.
Hmm.
So if that's anything to go by, like, it will be quite clear.
Yeah, like, I think, I also think the way, like, the way the last lockdown that it was announced, like, going until March 5th, when was that, last week or the week before,
Yeah,
when they announced that, like, I think it did look quite depressing from across the board. Like, no, it lacked that bit of hope. It did, and there was a lot of negativity, and I think that's really affected people now, where it's like, oh my God, we're going again, and
yeah.
we don't even
I
know
think
when, if we're
yeah.
coming out.
I think what was interesting about that though was kind of like, before the announcement was made, like, we all knew we weren't coming out of a lockdown,
I don't agree
you
with
know,
that. I think
don't you?
I
Because we
don't
were
think.
still at about 4,000 cases a day.
No, I'm saying I don't agree with us all finding out beforehand,
Oh
before
yeah.
it's
No,
announced.
I don't even
Yeah.
mean that. I mean from a point of view of looking at the stats that
Oh
were
yeah.
coming out from RT every day. I don't think to say that we were going to stay in a lockdown was that much of a shock.
Hmm.
But I guess at the same time, just it actually being said
Yeah.
by Micheál Martin and stuff, kind of in one sense kind of grounded it and made it more real. But I think I was kind of surprised when I looked online that everyone was like, "Oh, I can't believe the lockdown's extended." You know, that did
Yeah.
kind of surprise me a bit.
I think that comes from a bit of, Irish people are often in denial, and we always look at, like, the good stuff, and we'd be sitting here like, oh no, like, no, cases are going down, don't worry about it, they'll be like, go on level 4 and it'll be fine, and then it's like, oh no, reality hits there, and
Yeah.
um yeah, it's interesting.
Mm, mm.
What are you thinking, Adam? You're thinking
No,
away.
I'm just thinking away to myself. I, it's, I'm just wondering, like, what will be the kind of next norm for this? Like, when everything's kind of, kind of finished. I don't know if it'll ever be finished, but like, it's just wondering, like, what will be norm? What will it be like to, go back into things? Like, how's this going to be completely finished? Like, what's
The
what's the
exit.
next, yeah, what's the kind of next steps between there to now, or sorry, now till there, sorry, and when we do go, back into places, or back to, back to level one or whatever. I wonder what's going to change, what's how things will be changed, or if there will be any differences, when that comes to anything, like just going into a shop. Will there be procedures you must follow, or these are kind of things that I was just thinking there now while you were speaking. So yeah, I don't know. It's very interesting because we just don't know.
Like, I think the whole hand sanitizer thing is definitely going to be sticking.
Yeah,
it's that, like, that's going to be everywhere from now on. And I think you're definitely looking at still wearing masks until March 2022 at least. Because I think, like, the issue is with the vaccine, you can still get COVID and you can still spread COVID. It's just the effects of it don't affect you like they are at the moment. So I think
you can be a carrier with the vaccine.
Yeah.
Fuck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, like, that's why we need to have at least 75% of the population vaccinated. But I think what it does look like is there doesn't seem like, obviously you have these anti-vaxxers and RTs, the virus, and all these, people. But for the vast majority of the country, I think everyone is going to take the vaccine. There doesn't seem to be a huge anti-vaccine kind of cohort of people that would greatly affect our herd immunity in the country, which is good. Yeah, obviously you still have your Gemma Dohertys and stuff like that, but
sure, they're
they'll always be there.
What will happen though with the people who are anti-vax? What is there going to be a consequence there? Will there be, oh well, if you're not getting the vaccine, well, you can't go abroad, or you can't.
Yeah, in Canada.
What will the story
there
there
might
be?
Yeah, there you may need to get something on your passport that says you've gotten the vaccine, but I think you're kind of going into dodgy human rights territory by doing that kind of thing. So I think there's definitely going to be.
Yeah, Canada got some.
Tread lightly.
Canada got some lashback when they came out basically saying that we're not going to infringe on your rights. You don't have to get a vaccine, but if you don't get a vaccine, you're not going to be allowed to do certain things. And it's like that's
the only thing about Canada is they like to kind of bring in laws and kind of enforce people to things that you have to do.
We saw that with the Jordan Peterson situation.
Yeah,
I think what the problem with Canada is, they want to be so progressive all the time. It's like they get ahead of themselves. And they'll push a law through without fully thinking about the actual repercussions of it, and then they're like, oh, that wasn't right, and then they'll track back, and it doesn't happen all the time, but Jordan Peterson's is very it's a very well known and clear moment when that happened.
And I think in terms of what he was saying about that bill C-16, I would agree with him.
Me too.
But in one sense, he says that he wouldn't call someone by their pronouns depending on their motives. I wouldn't care. I will call you whatever you want, but I don't want a law saying I have to. And I think that's the one difference. Jordan Peterson said that he may not call someone by their pronoun, and I agree with a lot of stuff that he says, but that would be one distinction that I would disagree with him on. It's I'll call you whatever you want, but I don't want a law saying I have to.
Yeah, I think what he was getting at there was that he didn't want people to say, oh, call me a she, when just to kind of get him in a sticky situation, and he didn't want to kind of feel like he's in this trapped situation where he has to say certain things, which I understand where he's coming from, but then again, I know what you're saying, just chill out, just whatever, just say it. But I definitely agree with his main point of like that if you're gonna
You can't force,
make a hate speech, like hate speech, if by a complete accident you can
But
cause someone
even,
the wrong.
yeah,
Yeah.
like even when someone made a point to him saying, he's like, why are you against this when you're not against like hate speech? And he made a brilliant point that there's a huge difference between there's things that you can't say, which is hate speech, and there's things that you have to say, which is that new bill, you know. And I think there is a big difference between saying you're not allowed to say that, but you have to say this. And I think that was really something that he was pushing as,
like I
as
think
an army of one as well, which is pretty impressive.
yeah, like I think hate speech is, I think it's kind of, people think it's quite a gray area of when it's hate speech and when it's not, but like I think, like, obviously if you're going to shout there's a fire in a cinema and there's no fire in the cinema, like you're not allowed to say that. So I think when there's like, when there's a clear kind of a thing like that where it's just, this isn't going, there's no good coming out of this.
Yeah.
Like if I'm going to say something and there's actually no way of flipping it to where I meant something else or I didn't even like, no, I think then, yeah, obviously you shouldn't be saying it then.
Yeah.
How is America handling this this whole virus? No, just
Well,
generally.
kind of, Joe Biden has gone into office and just clicked Control Alt Delete again and again and again and again and again on Trump's administration, which was kind of funny to see. Like he went back into the World Health Organization and the Paris Accord. So it's all like it seems to be a change for good, but it'll be interesting to see how progressive of a change it is, and see whether they are all Biden's policies or whether they're, you know, kind of up and coming Democrats that are pushing his hand. But we'll see.
I think America needs a young president. I know, like, because if you look at a lot of, I think they need kind of the more kind of the younger generations kind of.
I think Ireland's the same, if
yeah,
I'm honest.
Yeah, but like, you look at all like I felt like one of the best presidents of America was Obama, like, and I don't think anyone has like a bad word to say about him because he was just kind of. I didn't even see that much hassle with America even when he was president, but like ever since that, like him, you know,
I think
Trump come in with so
yeah,
controversial and stuff. I think you need something kind of younger, something fresher, kind of a thing. It's kind of everyone's kind of sticking to like the old handbook, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, like I do think from us being outside of the country, I think the media is the thing that we're going to get most of our things from. And I think the media were very pro Obama, even when he might have made dodgy decisions. And then they were very anti Trump when Trump may have made some not so bad decisions. Now, that's not me saying that I'm a Trump supporter. I'm saying I hate Obama, but I'm saying that there definitely was a lot of stuff that people weren't happy with Obama, with wars and Iraq and how he handled different things. And there was a lot that kind of was a little bit like, ooh, was that the right decision? But then he was so loved as a character and as a person that it kind of helped his like his reputation then kind of like moved the bad stuff to the side. But I do think that I do think that he was a good president overall. Like I think everyone's going to make like slightly not even wrong decisions, but not even wrong decisions, but like decisions that will have people against them. Like there's always going to be that.
But,
yeah.
Like I think when it comes to politicians, it's like no politician is making a decision because they think it's a bad idea. Okay, and it's kind of the same idea as it's like, and if an actor is playing a villain in a film, they can't be in the mindset that they're a villain because no villain thinks they're a villain. You know, they always think that they're doing the right thing. So I think like people can have different policies like Obama and Trump did, but the big difference is even though Obama may have had policies that Republicans didn't agree with, he was still able to unite America.
Yeah,
Trump
I
wasn't.
agree. Yeah, I think the most important part, like forget policies, like obviously policies are important, but the most important part is, as you said,
vote them out. Yeah,
and the most important part is the making actually the majority, at least, of a country feel a bit more together, and feel that, you know, someone is actually doing mostly good. They may have made wrong decisions, but you can voice that as a democracy like, and you can voice it and things will change eventually then. But I think, yeah, Trump did the number one mistake is the fact that he divided everybody so clearly.
Yeah.
And like he did, like, I think if anyone's going to sit here and say that Trump made not one good decision, like, that's not true. He did a lot of good stuff as well. But the main thing that matters, he didn't do good at all and completely butchered it. And that's then why he needed to leave. And I think, no, I just think, like, at the start when we were looking, like, if you remember back in when he was going for his first run, a lot of people, and I'm going to be honest, I was looking at it like, you know what, it's a change, like, it's a business guy, it could be something good, like, you never know what's going to happen here. He's a bit he's charismatic, you don't, like, go for it, like, it's a different person to see what happens. He actually had people having a bit of hope, saying, you know what, there could be a bit of a change here. And then he completely ruined it and completely ruined his opportunity. And I wouldn't give him a second chance or a third chance or anything like that. I think he completely ruined the most important part. So get rid of him.
Yeah, like, I think if COVID wasn't a thing, number one, he could have gotten a second term. But I think he probably would have, you know. But I think the fact that COVID, it was unlucky for him. All right, like kind of COVID came along,
unlucky.
and then the fact that he didn't agree with the election and all that kind of thing. It was those final weeks that will make him go down in history as a terrible president, which is a shame because of all the terrible things he did over the last 4 years as well. But when people think, oh, he was a bad president, it'll be because he didn't deal with COVID properly and he didn't accept the results of the election, you know?
Yeah.
Not anything else, which maybe could have been his plan. I don't know, but because he's not stupid, you know?
He's very intelligent. Very
he's definitely
intelligent.
not stupid. But and like anything that he does say that seems stupid, kind of there has to be ulterior motives and stuff. Like I remember one of the court hearings for, you know, Brett Kavanaugh to the Supreme Court, is he baffled on to the press for about 2 hours. He did an unannounced press conference for 2 hours while that was going on, which everyone looked at saying, oh, what's he doing? He's being stupid. But all the media were talking about his stupid answers and not Brett Kavanaugh's answers for his court hearing, you know?
Everything he did for a reason. Like, I don't think
there were things that definitely, there's elements of him that are stupid. Like, I remember there was one time he was addressing some Marine Corps and he was like, Melania really wished she could be here but she couldn't, and she was standing right next to him. You know, which does that speak into the conspiracy theory that there's more than one Melania, and the fake one was there, but
more Jeffrey Epstein.
But you know, like, so there was definitely stupid things that he said that were stupid for the sake of being stupid. But I think all the big moments that were stupid were orchestrated.
Yeah. Yeah, lockdowns are. I think if right now with the whole this lockdown that we're in right now, I think I don't even think we can, like, revert anything and kind of go back and do it a different way. I think it's like we're basically now in, like, the final stage and we're looking to now redo everything, and it's like, no, you just gotta finish it out now. I think, like, yeah, I agree. I think what they'll do now is, what month are we even in? March. Or February. We're going into February. So we've February, right? I know. So lockdown's messing me up. So I think what they'll do is they'll try get what was the school situation that they were not that there was drama with a couple of weeks ago? Was it the special schools?
And the special schools,
yeah. So I think that they'll be trying to get them back first before anything, and that will delay everything. So I think that they'll be getting in maybe in the end of February first, and that will be kind of a let's see how that goes. I think they'll have to make a leaving cert decision before we go back.
Micheál Martin said there'll be clarity this next week. he said some clarity.
Yeah, some
Of
clarity.
that.
You know, like I
It's
think
the same last year as well.
I think
Some
it
clarity.
is a tough position though, you know, like because like myself and Adam, we were students last year for it, and I think like coming straight out and saying, okay, we're cancelling the exams, like although in an ideal world that's what they could do, like without a doubt, and I understood that's why they wouldn't do it for us, is that'll result in, you know, about 600 or 60,000 students around the country having nothing else to do, going out, meeting up, spreading the virus. You know, so I think the idea of a leaving cert is to some extent containing 60,000 or so people within the country, um, which is one aspect to it. But then at the same time, you can't be dragging them on for no reason.
Yeah.
So I think it's definitely a hard position to put someone in, but it's a hard position for the government as well, and you kind of have to appreciate that at the same time, still needing clarity. Because the moment you've none, you know.
Mm.
Yeah, I feel very like I think it's worse off this year for leaving cert than it was for us last year, in my opinion, because
Yeah,
even in fifth year for like Dave's group now, you know, they were out of school in fifth year for a bit as well, and to carry that on to sixth year, like fifth year is probably arguably the most
heavy workload. Yeah,
influential year. Yeah, like you kind of have to knuckle down for fifth year, you know,
And I think this point as well, like I think this point that we're in right now for a sixth year, I think it's really when you kind of finish things off and wrap it all up.
yeah.
And I think it's like the most important part of sixth year in a way, because like if you look at it after pre's, it's just complete study in a way.
You
And
can do that at home. Yeah,
yeah, so I think like at this point right now when we're supposed to wrap things up and we're already behind, I think that's the worst point. And I think fifth year, like you said, that's the worst point
like
of in
yeah.
fifth year.
to be
Like I
locked
think
down in
you're
fifth year is
definitely
vital. Yeah,
yeah. Like I think you're definitely in a worse position than we were, but you didn't have to be if the government had a plan. You know, like they
Yeah,
could have
yeah,
had a
yeah.
plan and given, you know, proper state exams and subjects every month, done a continuous assessment, so that if they had to do some sort of a predictive grading, it would
they'd
be
have a good
easy
idea.
to have an across
Very,
the
yeah,
board results. You
I
know,
agree with that.
like that's just one idea that they could have had free to make it much easier, but they didn't. They came back thinking that you'll be fine for June.
Yeah, like
You
I
know,
think that really shows the kind of old-fashioned backward thinking of where we'll just, you know, we'll drive on and we'll figure that out now later on,
yeah.
and
But
it'll
like
be
the thing is,
fine.
you might be in a COVID wise, you could be in a position to sit the exams in June, you know, but not from a point of view that you won't have the
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
information,
I'm
you know.
I'm not debating the fact that it's not safe to sit an
Yeah,
exam.
like
I
it
think if you want,
could be safe.
yeah, yeah, I think if you want to sit an exam in a safe matter, I think that's completely doable in
Yeah,
today's world after knowing what the virus is, knowing what you can do to prevent it more, and keep everyone safe. Like I'm not debating that at all. I'm debating the fact that the leaving cert, one is the whole point of it is to have some standardized exam that's
yeah.
fair with everyone, so that there's no
Mm.
like, oh, this
Which it isn't
student did better
anyway.
off, which yes it isn't anyway, but now it's going to be like a complete mess up because other schools do things completely different. They take the course completely different, they start with new things, they start with like everything is different in that sense. The other thing now that we're noticing is that the way schools, even never mind schools on the broader scale, but even within schools, how different teachers assess their classes is very
Yeah.
different. So
Mm.
someone might have a harder test or a harder exam for the continuous assessment, and then they're going to get better results than, or they'll get worse results than someone who
Yeah.
might have an easier teacher. And I think that's a problem that they're looking at now, realizing that that's probably why there was such inflated grades as well, is that you had a lot of people that, you know, had easy enough tests, or not even easy, but you know, when they're smaller and they're in fourth year and fifth year and you're looking at
Yeah.
everybody getting 60s,
Or they're like
70s,
weekly tests,
80s.
you know, so they're
Yeah,
like 10
exactly.
questions or something. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
And you add that
I think
in.
one of the, yeah.
No, like I'm just saying, you add that in, and it's going
Yeah.
to obviously inflate a grade. Like that's no comparison to getting a H4 in a full exam that's 2.5 hours long.
Yeah. But I think one of the big things that showed a lot of inflation, which kind of people don't like to accept, but if you look at it, it's true, is there were certain private schools
Oh yeah.
that if you look at a teacher that usually gets 4 H1s in the class, got 15 H1s or put forward 15 H1s and ended up getting 8 of them. So still, that's a drastic decrease, but it's still double what that teacher would normally get in that class, you know. And I'm not saying that only happens in the private schools, but there was a lot of data to suggest that for
100%. No, 100%.
Like I think which is unfair because
No, go on, finish.
Because I think some students then that like if you think of it this way, if there was like 2 students that got 88% and then this system downgraded one, how do you decide which one to downgrade? You know?
Yeah.
Like I got I think I got like 86% in biology and I was downgraded to 75. You know, which makes no sense. So shout out to Mr. Canty, thank you for giving me a H2. But the government
whole purpose coming on here is just to say that.
And all they do is go on about their beloved bell curve, which then they'll use as kind of to hide behind, which is why people get downgraded. But I don't know, like I don't think that should just be the reason why people are getting downgraded. Like I think you need to look at it a little bit more deeper than that. Oh, it's a bell curve, so that's why.
Yeah.
Do you think when the virus does, eventually go down or whatever next year, the year after, will they change up the leaving cert? Will it be changed? Will there be things put in place? Like, will
Depends
it be
who's in government.
Like,
I
think
it's that?
Like in an ideal world, it would be, because I think this shows just how not being able to sit one exam at the start of June can stop an entire cohort of people from getting into college potentially. You know, so I think from that respect, like it definitely should be changed. Like I don't see any problem with the syllabus or anything like that, but it's the point system is the issue. You know, it's this like that kind of a system of getting people into college is the big issue, and that's what I was talking about.
No, sorry, I cut you off. Go on.
Yeah, no, like that's what I was saying to one of the previous minister for education rang me when I was doing that whole petition thing, Rory Quinn, and he was the guy that brought in the more class-based assessments for the junior cert and tried to take it away from that one exam at the end of June type thing. And he was saying like that the curriculum is an interesting curriculum, you know, and like it is, the stuff you're learning can be interesting, but the fact that you're learning it purely to just recite this information to get enough points to get into your course, like that's really where the issue lies.
Yeah, like I agree, but I also disagree. I agree with the fact that the whole points system, like 100%, I think that's a joke. And I really question, like I would question someone like how they can sit there and say that, oh, the points system's great. Like I would just be like baffled if someone came and said to me. But with the curriculum, I do think we are definitely behind in a good few subjects. Like I'm not saying every subject at all. Like I do I heard that a lot of the science subjects are very forward and they're very detailed and they're very like closer to college than a lot of, you know, Canadian high school courses or American high school or even England maybe. Like I do think some subjects are fantastic. Maths, I think, is one, to be fair, higher level maths. Like the detail that you get into in higher level maths is very, very pointless but tough. Like it's tough. Like a lot of people, like if you took the very smart kids in other countries and you put them into a leaving cert maths class, they would find it very difficult. Like our courses are difficult, but I'm on about, there's certain subjects that are like the business subjects in particular, very old fashioned, very out of date. And I think business in general is something that always continues to change. But I think that's, you got to deal with that, with what it is. It's a subject that continuously changes. Like it's like science. Like science is going to continuously slightly change, and more things are going to be, with more studies and everything. I think more things are going to be found out. And I think business is another one like that, where you have to keep up with the times, or else you're just going to teach something that isn't relevant anymore.
Yeah, but the majority of business that we learn in school doesn't change, apart from the IT chapter.
But I'm saying that's
That's
not.
really it.
But I'm saying that's not true. Like the business books, like they're very old fashioned and out of date. The course in general is
Are they
very out
though?
of date. Yeah,
Apart
like
from the IT chapters and changing maybe a new act that's been amended.
yeah, they are. Like, have
No.
you read one business book that mentions like a SaaS based business model? There isn't. In secondary
But that
school,
doesn't mean it's out of
obviously
date.
it does.
That doesn't mean the information in the book is out of date. That
Yeah, it
means
doesn't mean
there's
the
new information
information.
that should be
Yeah,
added.
it doesn't mean the information that's there is necessarily out of date, but it means that the course is outdated because the information that's going to be needed more often in the world that you're going into, you're not getting that information. Like if you look at it, is marketing touched on that much through business studies?
Yeah.
In the detail that marketing could be touched on with social media, with Instagram,
I
with
think
Twitter, with
from a leaving
TikTok.
cert level, I think it is enough. It's definitely helped me in my career from the whole demographics of marketing.
Yeah, like I'm not saying it doesn't help, but I'm saying it could be better. And I think just saying that, oh, it's not too bad, it does the job. Like I don't think
But
that's good
why should it
enough.
be so detailed for someone that isn't then going to go into a career in business?
But
Should you
that's
not
why
get a basis and then go into a career in business and do a
but
business degree if you need
there
one?
should there should be more subjects than the business that are already there, in my opinion. Like I think there's economics. I think there's economics, there's business studies, and there's accounting. Business is
Yeah.
a way broader subject than that. And I think you shouldn't be forced in our school where you've very limited choice, as we know. Like if the business subjects are broken down more, I think you can pick the part of business that you like, and you don't need to do business if you don't want to do business. So like there's no point then in saying, oh, you get a good foundation if you don't want to do business. Like don't do a business subject if you don't want to do a business subject.
But that's what college is for, is to specialize.
Yeah.
It's the same thing with biology, physics,
Yeah,
chemistry. They're all a broad basis
just
as
to
well.
say there as well, Dave, you're saying it could, it's it could be better, but you could say that about all the subjects, I think.
Yeah, I think you could.
Yeah, it's
In
just,
any country.
yeah.
Yeah, but I think like if you look at the education system in Canada, where you can do entrepreneurship as a subject in high school, you can do marketing as a subject in high school, you can even do anthropology, sociology, kinesiology. I think
But
that
do you
is a
think
lot
it's
more beneficial.
I was thinking about you saying that actually, but you think it's because there's less students in Ireland compared to Canada that you're able to go into that
Yeah, more
much
demand
specific detail? Yeah, there's more demand in a place like Canada with,
and availability.
yeah,
But I think if you broke out if you got a survey through Irish students and you were like, if we added this course into your school, would you take it? I think we'd see a very different picture where I think you'd have a lot more people not doing normal science and they might do kinesiology. I think you'll have a lot more people doing anthropology, sociology, a subject similar to that. I think you'll have a lot more people doing like computer science. I'm baffled that it's still not a subject in most schools. I know it's coming in now slowly, and it's mostly coming in through public community schools, isn't it? But that should be everywhere. That should be a
Well,
subject
I
that was
think,
done 5 years ago.
yeah, like I think the whole thing about giving a survey and seeing what students would accept it wouldn't be an accurate representation of whether it's a good thing or not, because I think it's new, so people will say, oh yeah, I'll be happy to do that. You need to have it in for at least 6 or 7 years and then see whether there's a high take up or not. Still, and when people know what the material is like PE, everyone was like, oh, PE was a subject, that'd be great, I do that, blah blah blah. And now when people are actually looking into what PE as a subject are, a lot of people are saying I don't like it.
Yeah, but that's the initial kind of shock factor that comes in when they pick something that they didn't know that it would be like that. I think if you held on and waited now, if you wait for 3 or 4 years, and you'll have a lot more people doing PE and a lot more people positively picking PE, being like, yeah, I'm interested in the different sides to PE and the different parts of the subject, and they're not going into PE thinking they're just there to play table tennis on a Friday. They're going in to learn about more the health side of things, because if you look at how our world is changing, even with fitness and social media, with more people getting into the gym, more people being aware, like a good
conscious as well.
yeah a good PE subject, there's no negative to that at all.
Yeah,
People
no, but that's exactly my point. It'll be a smaller number of people will then be happy to do that subject than would be if you did a survey at the beginning saying who wants to do PE as a subject.
But I think
go on.
I think that will happen inevitably with every subject, but I think just because it might be a smaller amount doesn't mean that you shouldn't do it. I think that education is a lot more powerful and a lot more interesting when it's broader. Like, instead of just having your science, your business subjects, and your English, maths, and Irish. Like, I think if you really broke it down, and like, if you look at our school, imagine if you added in computer science as a subject. Imagine if you added in marketing as a subject. Imagine if you added in PE as a subject to do. I think it would be a lot better.
Yeah, it would be fantastic, but I think it's a lot to do with the size of the country. It's a lot to do with, like, the demand, as Daniel was saying earlier. I think it would be fantastic to have those, to be implemented into our course. But if you think about it, if there's, say now, how many were doing the Leaving Cert year we did it, Daniel? How many was there about?
In our year?
Yeah.
There was about 97.
So there's 97 people, and you're breaking that into so many kind of different subjects. You might only have about 8 in some classes, and would that be?
I think a lot of people benefit from a smaller class.
I agree to that as well, but it's more to do with the kind of finances involved. I feel it's
yeah.
I completely agree with you, Dave, to the part where I'd love if there was more subjects available, more kind of more specific, subjects. I feel like that's brilliant. Like, more kids can be, to their niche, like to do what they find, whoa, that's exactly what I want to do. But there's also the fact that, having so many courses, that means, bringing in more teachers and, kind of like a less
like I know what you're saying. There's problems that come with that, which is money is the biggest one. But I don't accept that you can just hide behind that factor, because if I know it sounds a bit cringe, but if there's a will, there's a way. I think if you actually broke it down in how your finances are spent and how effective they were spent, like if you look at our Wi-Fi plan that's been going on, that they've been pumping money into, like, that's a complete shambles, and it's gone.
What Wi-Fi plan?
The national Wi-Fi plan that they want everywhere in the whole entire country to have 4G or whatever. It took them like billions, and it hasn't been fully finished, or it isn't finished for a while. I'm not sure. Like, I think when you look at it, like, if you wanted to do it and you wanted to fix it where there's clearly something, it could be better, I think you could do it.
But like I think, like, it's a great idea in an ideal world that you could do that in secondary school, but you're going into the realm of college then. It's like saying to a primary school student, instead of just doing science once on a Friday, let's split that now into, astrophysics and biology and chemistry.
Yeah, but you know how deep subjects go. And like, you can't just say that you'll be taken in from a course. I think you can then improve the courses in college to make them more, take away the beginners first year stuff, have that as the Leaving Cert
but
section.
You won't have everyone going into that college course that has done that in secondary school. That's the big issue. If you have more choice at secondary school, you're less likely that you'll have more of a differentiation in the colleges. So you're saying to go over everything again in college.
But if you look at if you're doing medicine as a postgrad, they do the first year of undergrad medicine in the space from September until Christmas in the first.
You do, yeah.
Yeah, so like something similar could be brought in.
But that's for one subject. That's on a much smaller scale. They fit 3 semesters into their first year.
Yeah.
Could you imagine doing that for every course?
But it wouldn't need to be for every course.
If you have that much choice at secondary school, it would need to be for the majority of courses.
Like, I'm not saying bring in 200 extra subjects. I'm saying bring in computer science as a standard one for every single school, not just a couple of schools here and there. So automatically that, like, you can't say that, oh, that takes away from the leaving cert computer science, because we all know computer science, how deep that goes, and how, like, you can learn computer science for 12 years and not be completely good at it. So, like, you can get the basics done in computer science and leaving cert as a subject. I'm saying there should be maybe a different business then, like marketing. I think should be a subject, or entrepreneurship. I think entrepreneurship is a huge one. Looking at tax, looking at how to set up a company, like all of that kind of stuff that comes along with it. Like, business is very complex, and I think when you, for the leaving cert, it's too, like, everything is a bit simple. And then when you get into college, I still think the college, from what I've heard, business in college is still a little bit simplified as well. Um, it's not as real life as it could be. And I just think an improvement to that subject as a whole across the board, from leaving cert up through college, I don't see why it wouldn't be good, or wouldn't be a good idea to try anyway.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. And the only thing is, I don't see the necessity. I see all would be a nice thing to have, and I do agree with certain things, like it would be good to have, go into more detail on entrepreneurship and marketing and stuff. But like from what you were saying earlier about having loads of different courses, like I don't see the point in having loads.
But do you see the dropout rate in colleges?
Yeah, it's 20% don't finish their course.
Very, very high. There's, especially first years recently, I think it's gotten even worse. The first years will just drop out and change course or whatever. That can be avoided by adding more choice in leaving cert.
Can it?
Yeah, 100%. Like, if I'm going into BIS and I'm thinking it's a business, one BIS, look at this amount of students that do BIS. That can, like, that's due to a lot of them doing just business in leaving cert. If you broke that up and business was a lot varied in leaving cert, you would have a lot more people going into marketing. You'd have a lot more people going into another side of a business subject, rather than just going for BIS, because that's kind of what people look at. They think business, BIS, let's go. Then you look at all the people in BIS. If you take them and they're already in BIS, would they be happier doing another section of business, or a specific part of BIS that they would have known previously if they'd done it in the leaving cert? Like, the people that go into BIS who have more of a thing for computer science, would they be better? Would they know that they like computer science more if they did computer science in leaving cert?
I don't know. You'd have to ask them.
Yeah, but I think it's something that you need to look at.
Look, lads, I think this is just getting into a bit of a heated debate, and we all have our different opinions on things, and we all think there could be, better things done here, better things done there, and changes in a lot of things. But again, that's just the beauty of an opinion, and how we'll have to just see how things will change. Like, I don't see how adding kind of, like, I think what you're saying is right, Dave, and what you're saying, Daniel, is correct also. But you see, it's just a complicated situation that
yeah, it's
we're just going to
100%
go into a
complicated.
rabbit hole,
Yeah.
because you saying one thing and then Daniel saying another. It's just going to end up, going into the same kind of loop in just another subject or something. So I think we all can agree to disagree on, when it comes to the education system. There's definitely improvements to be made, and I hope there will be, changes in the upcoming years and whatever. But
yeah, I think like definitely, if our leaving cert and your leaving cert this year now is anything to go by, there needs to be huge changes to how you get into college. Definitely.
And I agree. Yeah, absolutely.
Have you seen Portugal's model, where they get in, they pick their first course and they get into whatever their first course is? They don't need to, there's no point system.
No, I haven't.
Yeah, so basically, if you put down your first course, you'll automatically get accepted, and basically then by Christmas you'll know if you're gonna keep it on, if you're not, if you're gonna drop out or move course.
that sounds
And
good.
do they do any exams to get accepted, or do they just say they want to do college and they can go
I'm
and
not
do it?
sure. I'm not sure. I think
Yeah.
it's continuous assessment. And then like obviously there'll be requirements to get into a course, like you need to do English or you need to do maths.
Yeah.
And then it's like, all right, that's my first course. There's no waiting for a point system. I'll get into it. And then if you're terrible at it, like by Christmas, you'll know this isn't for me and you'll move. I think it could be something that could be done for my leaving certs this year as something, but I do think it's too big of a jump that they won't make that decision realistically.
It'd be hard to plan it out by now till next year, for the first years going in.
Like, I think definitely continuous assessment in some aspects, whether
100%.
it's fully or whether it's, you know, like 50% of your grade ends up being these exams you've done over the last 2 years. Like, either way, something should be done like that, because there's no point in just having to learn all this information just to write it down, you know. It's definitely just write down an exam, like, it's definitely not the way to go forward. But hopefully, like, I think the position that they're in at the moment is the fact that, like, they could, even if they were to do a point system, okay, to see whoever gets this point gets the course, but then once that is like capped, okay, so they have a certain amount of places, certain amount of points, once that is capped, anyone who wants to do that course can still do that course, because we now know that you can do college from online, and that everyone after that capped number can do the course but are doing it online, you know. So that the places in the college have stayed the same. And then if you really, let's say you really want to do psychology, but there's only 50 places and you were like the 56th person, if you really want to do it, you can, but you're going to be doing it online, you know.
That's interesting.
And especially with the whole dropout rate then, as well, as people drop out or as people go to like the change of mind to a different course, then those online people can move in based on exam
I like that
results.
idea. That's very interesting. Yeah, I like that that idea behind things. That's
seeing how it would work would be difficult though to maneuver.
Yeah.
But I don't think because something's difficult I don't think just because it's difficult you shouldn't do it or try it anyway.
Yeah.
But I know I think that's definitely an option that you can look at. But I just think this whole let's like our school want us to do pre's, right? And I was looking at it and I was like, okay, fine, like I'm screwed, but all right, I'll deal with it. And and then it just hit me, and I was like, right, what's the reason why we're probably not doing a normal leaving cert? I know I can't say we don't know, but realistically, and it's because of the amount of time in school lost and the amount of course that you haven't finished. And then it hit me like that still applies to the pre. The pre is like they told us that they'll be getting pre's from exam craft because the other ones stopped doing them.
Oh really?
DEB stopped producing them. They said we're not sending them out for the pre's, so they were like, right, well, there'll be exam craft, and you'll be doing them and it'll be used for predicted. And I just was like, if you did before your year now, the years previous to all of this, the pre's, you could fail the pre's completely, bottle it, and it wouldn't necessarily have any impact to your actual exam. But for us,
or even for our year, that's what we thought when we sat our pre's.
Yeah, exactly. But for us now, we're going to have to sit pre's at a disadvantage that would be the same as a leaving cert, where it's a replica exam, and we have I lost my train of thought. Yeah, so we've to sit pre's that are a replica of the leaving cert with the same amount of class lost for what it would have been for the leaving cert, but this time the pre actually has repercussions, and if you don't do good, it affects your final grade.
Yeah, like I think the one thing to slightly reassure you would be that there's no teacher going to, like, exam craft do about 6 or 7 different pre's to choose from, so they're not going to give you a pre with a lot of questions and stuff that you haven't covered. So like, let's say your biology teacher will look through and will pick the exam that has the most stuff that you've done, and might, when they send it out, say, oh yeah, question 17 isn't on the exam. You don't need to do that. So I think they will make sure that the exam isn't loads of stuff that you don't know. But on the broader scale, I do agree with what you said. But just from a worrying perspective, you should be.
No,
okay.
I know what you're saying, but then when I'm looking at that, and it's like we've done a lot over lockdown or lockdowns, and I think that it's very difficult to cover it to the same extent. And I think if those questions show up, people are going to be a lot more, they won't be prepared for them, especially in a subject like maths. I find maths is very difficult from home, higher level maths, and
so did I.
Yeah, so I don't know how that's I don't know how that's going to work if you've an exam and you've a lot of the course covered at home and you've to then do an exam on it, and this exam also will have a big huge impact on your final result, predicted, whatever, calculated. I don't know, it's a really weird scenario we're all in. I'm not just saying the students, but I'm saying teachers as well, and schools.
Definitely,
and the government, and that they need to actually find a solution that doesn't seem good for one type of person, but then really screws up another type of person, or and keep it fair across the board.
Yeah, I found the predicted grades last year even a bit of a not, I don't want to say joke, but it was a bit stupid because
interesting.
Interesting. It's because I'm pretty in a couple of subjects there, I didn't get many exams for the whole year. Even in 5th year, we didn't really get many exams. But yet then when the Leaving Cert came around and we got to predict the grades, it's as if they kind of just went, yeah, we'll give them a there about 60 there. It's but with Dave's year now, I find it's probably even tougher. Since they didn't do really many exams.
You missed out on exams from 5th year as well from lockdowns.
Yeah, like we did a lockdown summer exam thing, which to be fair, they weren't easy, but you can't stop people. Yeah, you can't stop people cheating and stuff. And then we had the pre-pre's there, which I think now people are worried that they were going along thinking, oh, pre-pre's don't matter, and now they realize, oh, they do matter, and now they're in trouble.
Yeah.
So now they're all saying, oh, let's do we need to do pre's so that we can do better in the pre's. But then they're not thinking of everybody else who might have known that they were important, did good for them, and now is realizing that the pre's actually wouldn't be fair at all to do in the normal way. If it's going towards your grades, and they're like, it should be continuous assessment or something. So yeah, I don't know.
I'm just trying to think as well. When I was doing the art history, we got one class test, and we had the pre's for the art history, or the pre-pre's. I can't remember which one we had. I think we had the pre's. And if you think about it, if they're marking off of that, that's are they marking off the art you did in the year? I actually don't even know how they'd mark it now, especially because you did do your pre's. You did a pre-pre. Did you do a pre-pre on art history?
Yeah. I got.
So is that the only result that they can go off of? And the work you do.
Yeah, well, I'd no class tests for. Actually, I had a diagram test for art history.
But you know what I mean? It's very interesting. That's especially in other subjects as well. It could be the exact same. That a teacher's style of teaching mightn't even be.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but listen, this has gone on. I probably longer than Daniel expected. I think we should we'll wrap up there. Leave Daniel go for his dinner or something. Listen, Daniel, thanks so much for coming on. It was absolutely brilliant to have you as our first guest. We'd absolutely
happy to come on.
We really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for helping us out so much, and I'd love to have you on again sometime in the near future about some other topic.
Something else.
Something that you and Dave could have another debate about. Will I stay quiet? But thanks so much, and we'll leave it at that.